Prime Minister Scott Morrison is reaching out to China. He says he's happy to have a discussion about their list of 14 grievances with Australia. In a speech last night to the British Policy Exchange, Scott Morrison addressed the tensions between the US and China, telling how it's presenting new challenges for nations like ours in the Indo-Pacific. I'm joined now by the Policy Exchange's chairman, former High Commissioner to the United Kingdom and, of course, one of Australia's longest-serving, perhaps longest-serving ever, Foreign Ministers of Australia, himself a former Liberal Party leader, the Honourable Alexander Downer, live from London. You last night were there in London, hello Alexander, when the PM was awarded this Grotius Prize. It's called the Policy Exchange Think Tank's Prize. It's the inaugural order for his support about the international rules-based order. What swayed the exchange to give it to Mr Morrison?
Without any doubt, the very decisive role he's played in upholding the rules-based international system in the Indo-Pacific region, in particular in relation to two issues. One is the South China Sea, where he's been very robust in supporting the decisions of the Law of the Sea Convention in relation to ownership and sovereignty in the South China Sea. And secondly, he's been very strong on the issue of Hong Kong too, where China has been in breach of the joint declaration between the UK and China, which is part of international law. So he's been very robust and very courageous in standing up for these things. Other countries haven't had leaders who have been as strong and decisive as Scott Morrison has in that respect.
I've got to ask you, you're in London, the UK's coming now out of lockdown and into these tiered restriction levels. Been a fair amount of criticism directed to Boris Johnson, both external and internal to the party. How fair is that?
It's perhaps at two levels. It is fair. First of all, from the point of view of the public, the government looks as though it's chopping and changing its position rather than maintaining a simple, clear course. But secondly, it is very difficult for a Prime Minister and for ministers in a situation like this to know what to do, in all honesty, and they are very dependent on the advice they get from the so-called scientists or the technical experts. Boris Johnson and his government have depended very heavily on a panel of scientists, as they call themselves, medical experts, and it's they who have been chopping and changing their positions as well. They are only interested in the health outcomes. They're not taking into consideration the economic consequences and therefore the social and, by one remove, health consequences of lockdowns and a whole series of different restrictions. So you're getting one strain of advice going to Boris Johnson and his government, which is all about how you would reduce the spread of coronavirus. Well, obviously, if you shut everything down, you definitely will succeed in doing that. But what will be the consequences? And I think, to be fair, the scientists have chopped and changed their minds and the government hasn't really been too sure what it should be doing.
They have, you're absolutely right, but it'd be like having only your health minister around the table in the cabinet and not your finance minister, not your treasurer, all the other parties that go together to give a whole of government view to a prime minister to make the final call. That's what's missing in all of this debate. I want to grab you while I can, because Donald Trump today obviously has given authorisation to move into the transition arrangements for now President-elect Joe Biden. He's announced some key appointments today, including John Kerry coming back as this special sort of climate change envoy. What sort of Biden presidency do you see out of these early appointments?
I think it'll be a kind of Clinton-style presidency, although he won't be a Clinton-style leader. I think he'll be very much a ceremonial president. He's, people won't mind me saying this, he's 78. He's an old man, and he just won't have the energy and the enthusiasm, I suspect, to be able to become an activist and reformist president. But the people around him so far at least, that he has been indicating will take up senior positions are really people who you would have expected on the more moderate side of the Democratic Party. So at this stage, he's not appointing any extremists or radicals. So I don't think it'll be a very exciting administration. I think it'll be a fairly quiet administration, but it'll be more traditional than the one we've just seen, of course.
I've no doubt about that. Alexander Downer, thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure, Peter.